coming there into Union and Bradford County. Into Stark, let's put another track on that because I want to give you a timeline as to when the weather should start to get the worst in Stark. And we'll see that over the next 15 minutes. So after a half hour, say by 3:15, 3:30, areas along the Highway 301 corridor will see improvements, but you've got the next half hour to be braced for the worst of this squall line coming through those western areas. All right, so back out to that tornado warning in Alachua County. That's going to hold together and push into Bradford and western sections of Clay County. All of the rain that you see here in Clay in through Duval County is a severe thunderstorm. Winds will likely get to 60 miles per hour. Heavy rain is possible. And then finally, just south of Brunswick is another tornado warning. This one, there's less lightning. It's on the coast near northern tip of Cumberland Island. That's set to move off the coastline. So those of you that are watching us here in Camden and Glenn County, this is the worst of the weather as we're speaking right now. Yeah. That's a tornado warning that goes until 3:15, but it's going to be off the coast before that.
Mark, I'm just cutting in here because, yeah, we've got an image there on the left side of the screen, and one of the tornado warnings is in Alachua County. If you on the map can head back that direction. What you're looking at in that video is from the Department of Transportation. Their cameras there on I-75 in Alachua County. But this is one of those areas right now outside Gainesville where, yeah, Mark, you're saying that's where some of those cells are moving through.
Right. So those of you that are watching us in Gainesville, maybe on a cable channel that can actually receive us, you're seeing the meat of the storm right now. This is around Archer, up through the Newberry area. You're starting to see some improvements, but south of Archer, as we get down into Levy County, there's Williston, and you can see from Bronson and back towards Chiefland there along Highway 27, Chiefland there in Bronson in the central portions of Levy County. There's Chiefland, you're seeing some improvements, but this is all moving back towards Williston, and that's the first stop off before it works back into Micanopy over Prains Prairie along US 441. And the storms have been really strong coming in off the Gulf of Mexico because there hasn't been a lot of shear to weaken these storms down towards Levy County. There have been several reports of tornado warnings in that area issued by the Tampa Bay Weather Service office. But right here in Jacksonville, our folks are watching this one thunderstorm near Gainesville that might have some rotation. And then finally, the one closer to Brunswick. There you can see that we're actually now getting a cylinder, which is a hallmark of a tornado warning right there. So when we see these cylinders pop up, that's an indication that there is confirmed rotation. And right here is where we're probably getting some very high winds on the very southern tip now. Looks like Jekyll Island. So earlier I was talking about South Riverview Drive. This is where you probably want to seek shelter. If you're watching us and you're on South Riverside Drive, this is a Doppler indicated tornado coming through your area right now as we speak. And when we take a look at the shear markers, which really cleans up the view of where the highest winds are, when you see this swath right here, this is where we're getting the highest winds. It has a history of wind damage between Hilliard and Folkestone, and now it's just tracking south of Brunswick. And we're seeing on the Doppler some signs of rotation right here into Camden or into Glenn County. So,
Mark, if you can, just explain that image that you're looking at there. I think this is really fascinating. So you said that it cleaned up. What are we seeing versus what you just took away from the map? This is
so incredible. What I'm going to show you is what the rain looks like. So this is an overall view here, right?
Yeah.
Now, when we see a bow in this thunderstorm, that is the upper level winds coming down and pushing out the echo. It's actually the high winds coming down, hitting the surface and bending the storm out. And notice that matches up very closely with the rotating winds. So we're getting those strong winds coming down from aloft, causing trees to topple down. And then when you see this swath, this is more confirmation that there's some severe weather here. Whether or not it's rotating or straight line, there's pretty good indications that there is some rotation, since we're seeing the computer algorithm depicting what's called a mesocyclone, or rotating winds. So this is the worst it's going to get here, and you're probably getting some damage now for those of you on Jekyll Island around South Riverview Drive. Everything that I can see is confirming that there is a rotating thunderstorm and the possible tornado. Another thing that we can look at is the wind speeds, and when you see the green and the reds, there's the rotation. So red is outbound winds. The airport is where the radar's at. So these are winds moving away from the airport. The green are winds coming back towards the airport. And when you see that on the radar, there's the rotation over Jekyll Island. That is even more confirmation that there's a tornado now in the Jekyll Island area. So St. Simon's Island down through Jekyll Island, this is ground zero for where we're likely seeing a tornado now. If you're watching us, you want to find yourselves in a safe room, and that would be in the northeastern side of your house, in the middle of the room, away from windows. Winds are going to be coming up from the south and southwest. That's why the western side of your home would likely be the more precarious spot to be.
And so on this camera, yeah, this is from Jekyll Island.
So that's where we're probably seeing the most damage right now. It would be nice if we could kind of see movement on there, but to get a sense of how bad those winds are. But when we look at this model, we can kind of actually get a sense of some of those wind speeds here. These are aloft, getting winds at like 38 miles per hour. Let's go ahead and take a look at the base velocity. And I'm just waiting for this. I want to see this get off the coastline, because right now it looks really bad for those folks in Jekyll Island. So you can kind of make out, let's go back to the radar. So here's the south end of the island, all that heavy rain coming through there. We talked about this storm having a history of wind damage from Folkestone, and now it's moving off the coast. So Kent, we were talking about the bows here. There's another little section that's bowing out, but this is right there on the coast of the Golden Isles area, and you can see all the lightning coming down there. That's an indication too that the storm is quite strong. So this section back towards Hilliard stretches into the Charlton County areas of the Okefenokee Swamp. Not as much lightning as the one tornadic cell to the north. And then down here over Gainesville, you can see that along Highway 441, right through the university town there, that's where we're getting the heavy rains there. This again is a tornado warning until 3 o'clock in Alachua County. Beyond that, there's severe aspects to the thunderstorms in Keystone Heights. So let's just get a sense of a timeline, since the storm is a little bit stronger southwest of Stark. How soon would the heaviest part of the storm get into Stark? Let's take a look here and draw this. Since these are moving at about 50 to 60 miles per hour, we'll use that as a timeline. And in the next 18 minutes, the worst part of this storm is going to be pushing into Waldo and then up into Stark and the Lottie area. So back here is what we call a squall line. It's a very linear type of thunderstorm that can pack a lot of strong straight line winds. But within the squall line, occasionally you get these little rotating pockets of the storms that are tornadic. And that's what we're seeing along this entire line. Notice how long it stretches all the way from the Gulf of Mexico up into southern Georgia. There'll be these smaller discrete echoes that have rotation. And I would expect to see a greater threat for tornadoes between Stark and Palatka here as we approach, say, over the next hour. So from 3 to 4 o'clock, 4:30, this area that's been heating up is still prime for more volatile type of weather versus areas up towards Lake City, back towards inland Georgia. Your atmosphere has been worked over. You're not as unstable as earlier. And so for those of you in Folkestone, you just had some real significant rainfall, some heavy gully washers coming through, but the rain is going to be easing. You're going to continue to see some steady rains back into your area, but the severe weather is over in Folkestone. Even though this is still a severe thunderstorm warning, that is now working back towards Kingsland, where you could see some high winds and some severe weather, and also into the Hilliard area. Back into Duval, let's just touch bases here and give you an update on this storm. I'm going to try to get in really close here because we've got the heavier part of this rain in McClenny. This is going to be building into Jacksonville over the next hour. So from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, we're going to see the weather go downhill. We'll probably get some winds gusting over 50 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour is very possible. And we're seeing the rain get heavier now in the Orange Park area of northern Clay County. So like I've been saying, I think south of Jacksonville, we still have a more conducive environment for more damaging weather than, say, Duval proper. But I can't say that until this rain that's right here along Highway 301 moves through Jacksonville, and that's going to be at least another hour. So again, this is areas from McClenny down to Stark. This is the strongest part of the squall line, and we still have an hours to go here in Jacksonville before we can signal the all clear sign. Getting closer to the all clear sign in the areas around St. Simon's Island, but there's still that tornado warning in effect. And here's another section, a hook. A hook echo is a return that we see, and it shows where the vortex could be, where the tornado could be. This is something that is a classic textbook example of a tornado in like Oklahoma, the hook echo effect. So when I see this, my eyes immediately drawn to that. I want to rule out whether it is a tornado or not. And if we see a couplet match up to that hook echo, that would be confirmation that there is a tornado in that area. And I would see a red and a green couplet. I'm not seeing that. So we're probably not seeing a true hook echo in that particular storm section there. So I think that's good news there. A little bit less threat of a tornado in there, but let's just take a look. I'm seeing some dark shades of red, which means that there's probably some really high winds in there. We'll query those winds speeds to get a sense of just how strong those winds are. Okay, so now that I got that, 27. So I've seen much higher winds than that. So I'm ruling that out as a tornado right there in that section. So I think that based on the tools that we have here, there's probably some high winds in there, and now the warning has been shifted off for mariners in Glenn County. So as this thunderstorm rolls off, you could likely see water spouts there as it moves away from St. Simon's Island and the Golden Isles area of Georgia. So back here to this first tornado warning that is in Alachua County. It's right there along Highway 301, back towards where it meets up with 232 in the Gainesville area. This is where the warning is in effect for Alachua County until 3:15. So we've got another 13 minutes of this particular storm and the threats for some damaging winds in central Duval or central Alachua County. Duval County right now, we haven't seen the worst of the weather yet. That's still imminent over the next hour. The weather is going to be going downhill right now. It's the steady rains, the winds between 20 and 30 miles per hour within this area of red, which is right here over McClenny down through Stark. That's where those higher winds are. So this is still about 30 to 60 miles away. We can see just how far away from downtown Jacksonville that weather is, and it's about 25 miles away from Jacksonville. For those of you in Middleburg, the severest part of this squall line is just 10 miles away, so it's imminent for those of you in Middleburg. From Jacksonville Beach, this storm is still a pretty good ways away. So 45 miles away, this whole line is moving at about 50 to 60 miles per hour. So that puts you at under an hour now in Jacksonville Beach for the worst part of the day's weather to reach you on the coast. And when we actually look at this squall, let's go ahead and kind of take this to Jacksonville Beach and give you an idea of when it could be moving through these communities. So basically, there's too many towns in the way to get me a true reading of the timeline there on Jacksonville Beach. But I would say within the next 40 minutes, the heaviest part of the storm is going to be back onto the beach. All right, so let's clean that up and show you the bigger view here. And when we loop this...
Mark, can I ask you a question here? So as we're looking at that and you're talking about how these storms are coming across, obviously moving to the east there, how fast are these storms moving?
The individual storms are moving at 60 miles per hour. That's some of the faster storms that I've seen.
Well, you just when you were tracking that, I thought, oh, is that right? Can it be moving that fast? That seems like a storm's moving pretty fast if it's doing that. Right?
It is. It's much faster than a typical pace of, say, 15 to 20 miles per hour. The reason why these storms are so volatile is because we have, the winds aloft, which are usually 50, 60 miles per hour. The jet stream blows at 200 miles per hour. But say 5,000 feet off the ground, we have what's called a low-level jet, and those winds can be 50, 60 miles per hour. When that low-level jet is strong, it channels those winds down to the ground, but that's what's steering all these storms. Those upper-level winds are blowing so fast that it's pushing these thunderstorms our way at a very fast clip. And so that's why when we were able to predict the severe weather a couple days in advance, it's because sometimes these winter type storms are a little bit easier to predict than say the pop-up summer storms that can pop up, they last for like 45 minutes and then they collapse and then it's all over. Yeah. There's some structure to this line. This doesn't look like a typical summer thunderstorm. Right. It's very organized. And these are sometimes easier to predict, and that's why schools were canceled or allowed to depart or end earlier than normal because of the accuracy of this prediction. Okay, so this is the squall line. It's a very linear storm, and right now, Stark, you're seeing the worst it's going to get all day long. So if you can weather this storm over the next 15 to 20 minutes, the worst will be behind you. For those of you in McClenny, it's still coming down pretty good, but the worst is behind you. In fact, it has moved off to the east. Baldwin, the worst is coming your way over the next 5 minutes. You're going to get some heavy rain and high winds coming in, but not much lightning there, so that's good news. Again, remember, when you see the lightning pulse, there's usually some strengthening of the storm, and we're seeing that here in Gainesville, where we're having all that lightning come through. But that tornado warning has expired now in Alachua County, so that's good news. But again, this area in the south, and to southern Clay, Putnam counties, back through Flagler County, this is the area we need to watch through 3:30 to 4:30 for some rotating storms. Back up to Georgia, let's just see what's happening with that tornado warning that is right now moving away from Brunswick. And when we take a look at this storm, it looks like it's all off the coastline. So that's good news there. Not a lot of lightning with this particular thunderstorm as this moves through. So that is now a marine concern for folks in Georgia, as you are actually getting into the less severe part of this entire squall line. So from here on out, Brunswick, Waycross, the threats for severe weather is over with. Folkestone, you are no longer under severe weather. That's it for your heavy rain and high winds. Folkestone, you probably, from what I've seen this afternoon, have really taken it on the chin here with that thunderstorm that is now to your east. That was probably the strongest storm that we've seen. And going back to what Ken and I were talking about, the shear products, there you can see out of all of the storms that have come through, Where do these streaks of red show up? Right there through Folkestone. So that was the strongest storm that we've seen this afternoon. Come just south of Folkestone, threading the needle between Folkestone and Hilliard. And then again, that tornado warning that came right through southern Georgia. So that was the path of the most intense weather that we've seen all afternoon here in our area. And those of you in Hilliard, you're seeing the heavy rains right now, probably some winds getting up to around 50 to 60 miles per hour. And right now in Jacksonville, the rain is becoming increasingly steady. But for those of you in Gainesville, a lot of lightning, a lot of thunder, heavy rains coming through. And right now that is the story as far as the severe weather into your area. So Kent, now that this tornado warning is covering the fish, I think we can wrap that up. And we're going to be watching this because, like I said, I'm probably going to be back over the next hour talking about these zones to our south.
And Mark, before we wrap it up, so this is tornado warning. This is when we stay on the air and when we guide you through what's happening there. Tornado watches, those are still in effect in various places. Are we likely to see these tornado warnings in the counties just ahead and to the east where these storms are moving, Duval, et cetera?
This area south of Duval County. So those of you in Palatka, down through Flagler Beach, and even to the Walaka area around Lake George. This squall line over the next hour is going to be moving in, and that's when you're going to see the worst weather. So I'm going to watch very diligently any type of signs of rotation. I'll be back on the air if I see that. Again, I'm watching these Boeing segments for any rotation, possible tornadoes there. The watch means conditions are right for tornadoes. Not that one is happening right now, but that watch in effect until 6 o'clock. We'll probably see that expire maybe an hour or two earlier. Once this line goes through, that's when we will see the worst of the weather come to pass. So we got to get through that line, and then we can signal the okay, clear sign. But for now, we've got another hour of rocky weather in those southern areas.
Yeah, and so one of the things we're showing you here on the left is this is Interstate 95 southbound. Can you give me near Phillips Highway? Okay, so kind of the bottom of the outer belt and 295 there in Jacksonville. But obviously, lots of rain right there. And it's not that we haven't seen rain or wind, but obviously with what Mark is showing us and the Weather Authority is keeping us up to date on, that severe weather is what's highlighted in those flashing boxes right there that we're trying to keep an eye on. And by the way, hopefully you've seen this, but this Weather Authority Alert Day, this is why. And we've been on the air since this morning at 4:30. Katie Garner's been here. Janice Harris is here alongside Mark Collins. Our chief meteorologist, Richard Nunn, has been in today. Obviously, a lot of attention focused on this so we can help keep you safe. And Mark, I appreciate what you were saying earlier when we were talking about Jekyll Island, that Brunswick area where you can, using our technology, see where the potential is highest for tornadic activity and where people need to heed the warnings and seek shelter and make sure that you're trying to stay safe in the face of a storm like this.
Definitely that area around Jekyll Island was probably the worst of what I've seen out of this whole line. And we'll probably get some crews out there because there was in Glenn County a confirmed waterspout was located offshore St. Simon's Island. So when I was showing that cylinder, that gave me a lot of confidence that I was seeing a tornado there. So if people were seeing a waterspout, then that's what we were tracking. We were tracking a confirmed tornado there. So I'm only as good as the tools. The tools don't basically provide the ground truth that eyeballs would out there.
That's why we'll send them. That's why we'll send people out.
Yeah.
We get the eyeballs on the scene there. For
all
sure.
I could do is tell people to, get inside and get to that area in the northeastern part of your house, and hopefully that saved lives.
Yeah. Mark, so this Glenn County tornado warning is until 3:15, so we're only 2 minutes away from that. But as it expires, the most intense stuff looks like it's already off the coast.
Yeah, that's right. So no one's being hit by a tornado right now because it's out over the ocean. So, technically the warning goes until 3:15, but it's out over the ocean. So you can say that the threat is over now.
All right, so I'm going to get some clarification here, but we want to make sure that we're on air and here for you during a tornado warning, but that as this gets ready to expire, obviously, Mark and the team, everybody is here watching for is there a new warning that's going to be posted or issued out of this, so we'll keep watching that for you. And you got to appreciate the track and zoom features here, being able to zoom in even to neighborhoods. Incredible, Mark, for you to be able to tell us, hey, on this street right now, in St. Simon's, that's where you should be, taking cover and that sort of thing. So
it is very helpful to have these type of Doppler tools there. And as we zoom in very closely, you can see that the red is all off the coast there. So unfortunately,
great news.
That area, St. Simon's Island, Jekyll Island, probably had a tornado come through your area. But hopefully, we were able to give people enough heads up as this line in this tornado came through the Folkestone area and then held together. Hopefully you got the word and we're safe. Again, the areas that will be under the threat for additional risks in Clay County, areas around Middleburg down through Alachua County. We're probably going to get some really high winds coming out of this thunderstorm. So to summarize, right now the strongest thunderstorm is moving east of Gainesville. The worst weather has already moved through Gainesville. And so those of you in Keystone Heights, be prepared because this is a severe thunderstorm, and the weather in Keystone Heights, as we draw this out, let's try to give you a time frame. The worst weather is going to hit between 5 and 8 minutes from now. So don't be surprised if you've got some trash cans that are still out there, they're going to be blowing, and hopefully you don't get a lot of damage, but over the next 5 to 8 minutes in Keystone Heights, that's when the worst weather is moving into your area there in Clay County. Stark, I can say that the rain is coming down heavy, but it is now moving east of Highway 301. So if you live in Stark and you're right there on that highway, the weather is going to be improving. But out towards Camp Blanding, the weather is getting heavier as we speak. It is really coming down over Kingsley Lake. It's just raining buckets there, but not a lot of lightning. So probably gusty winds, but this whole line is a severe thunderstorm warning. And so those of you that are under this warning, you could see some winds easily getting to like 50 and 60 miles per hour within that severe warning there. And this whole line is going to be severe, and all of North Florida is going to have at least a half hour of a severe thunderstorm rolling through your area. So those of you in Duval County, right now the storm is in the western sections of the county. It's going to be getting worse as we speak, but by 4 o'clock, I would say the worst weather is going to be on the beach. And again, when we put a track on this line, moving between 50 and 60 miles per hour, that's going to be right there at places like Black Hammock within the next 40 to 50 minutes. So Jacksonville Heights, you're basically getting pounded right now through the Dinsmore and Marietta area. Just on the western sections of Duval County, the worst weather is moving in as we speak. And like I said, there are no active tornado warnings in our area. They're down in Marion County or Ocala. And Kent, like I said, now that there's a tornado warning just south of our viewing area, I think that's my concern, is that I'm going to be back here within the next hour covering some tornadoes working into Clay and Putnam County. So unfortunately, I'll probably see you very shortly.
All right, so what we know at this point, the tornado warning that was in our area has expired. We continue to watch this, like Mark is talking about right here. And then I'm going to get some guidance. Are we going to stay on? Are we going to say goodbye? Because, so we're wrapping up here for now. Here's our assurance to you. If we need to, we will interrupt programming again and get on so you know exactly what's happening, any threats to your safety, because we want to be right there with you. For now, we're going to go back to regular programming. Don't forget, we've got News for Jax at 4 coming up, and we'll be back on.